That is bright. Where do I want to go with this? So, I'm currently in the process of editing a video, going over, recent happenings in the red pill sphere and that whole entire thing. And while I was in the moment of making that video and just watching YouTube videos all throughout, because I'm not doing it all in one day, because it's an hour-long video, and that is a video to edit, and I'm not looking forward to the whole entire thing. But I'm in the process of editing that video, and I was thinking to myself, because things I think about are in connection to how people work. I'm interested in people. I'm more feminine in that sense, less masculine in that I'm more interested in people than I am things. Things are important, and I recognize that. That's my masculine nature, but I am more feminine in that I do care a lot about people and how people react and how all of these things work. And I'm going to say something that's not really controversial to say, but, typically the idea is within politics, you've got liberals and conservatives, or Republicans, Democrats, whatever word you want to use. And the idea is typically founded that women skew liberal, men skew conservative. I am one of those types of people. I skew conservative. And I ask myself, why is it that conservatives have such a hard struggle with gaining women in conservatism? Why is it that women do not go to the right when, especially in today's current paradigm, the right is far more logical in nature, in that we argument for things that are actually happening. Now, of course, there are blind spots. I'm not gonna try and claim that we're all perfect and beautiful and know what we're talking about. We're always logical. That's not true. I mean, it is politics. You'll see conservatives not talk about things that make conservatives look bad. You'll see liberals not talk about things that make liberals look bad. It is the paradigm that we live in currently. But I wonder, why is it that what I know to be the logical answer, that current conservatism is the correct motive in building a proper country. You've got, if I'll use America as an example, because that's a worldly renowned thing. Everybody sees everyone on the internet knows what's happening in America. I'm going to use America as an example. You've got the liberals advocating for people who shouldn't be there, that they should be there. They're advocating for something that is completely against being a country. To be a country, you must have borders, and if you don't have borders, then you don't have a country. It's illogical. Why do women not go towards the logical answer? And the obvious answer is a thing that Jordan Peterson called out, which is that men are more interested in objects, women are more interested in people. Or as I would simplistically put it, how men speak, and I'm not putting men in a monolith, I'm not putting women in a monolith, I'm just saying generally, women speak emotionally, men speak logically. That's not to say that all men are logical, or all women are completely feelings orientated, but that is the general gist. You say 1 + 1 = 2, and the man will understand But then we have TikTok got this thing called girl math, and women like that. Which, how I've seen it, it's not the most logical thing. Men speak logically, women speak feelings-wise. And this makes total sense. This is how reality works. It's how it's always worked. It's how it will continue to work. And it makes sense. But how does the conservative move gather more women in the movement? Because as a man who wants to one day get married, there's a lot of men who want to be in a relationship, but they see the current paradigm of how women are really skewing to the left, and they're like, oh, maybe I'll never be into the dating market because I don't want to be with that. And I understand that. I have no issues, as if you're in a marriage, you should be with someone who is your equal in that sense, in that you agree on values. But if women are going all the way over there, it's like, whoa, we got an issue. We got something crazy going on here. And why is it that women go all that way, and men, and how can we get women to be in line with what men would perceive as logical? The problem is that men, the men, conservative, generally speaking, do not speak with feelings. We speak logically. We don't speak much with feelings. Now, of course, there are feelings behind those logic, but the logic comes first and the feelings come after. Whereas with women, it is the feelings come first, but the logic comes after. I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. Tell me in the comments if it is, but I don't think it is. But I think, generally speaking, that's how it is. So, what is the thing that makes me upset with the political landscape? It is the fact that people who are logically wrong, they lie. That's what that is to say. To not be illogical is to lie about a situation. Because if logic persists, it cannot contradict. But if the logic that you're spouting contradicts, that's a lie. The left does that quite a lot. Now, they might not go out of the way to lie, but they omit information, they skew information, they put their own spin on it, and they use emotional language to talk about things. I point that out because, use the election that happened last year, February, in America. February. Was it February? I don't know. But the whole entire, the big gravitas energy was that men voted against women's rights. If you're a man, you will know logically there were no rights that were voted against. But if you're a woman, listening to them use that emotional verbiage of saying that they voted against women's rights. The emotion comes first, the logic comes after. But sometimes people don't even, sometimes men and women don't even think logically. They just think with their emotions and they forget the logic of it. They'll hear the left say that men voted against women's rights to choice? What is the proper verbiage that they say? It's escaping my brain. I'm kind of just going off the cuff here. But they'll say like choice. It's my body, my choice. That kind of thing. They'll say that men voted against women doing their body, their choice. It's emotional language that attacks the person. Rather than attacking and with like AoE, it's attacking to the one person. If you're a woman listening to that verbiage saying, men voted against my right to choose, it's complete emotional warfare that is happening there. Because if we dive into... I'm not going to dive into the logic. I want this video to... if you're a woman listening to this, which I don't know if there will actually be, but if you're a woman listening to this, I want you to understand what I'm saying. Now, I want to make it clear. I'm not a man who will say women are stupid. I'm saying I want you to understand what I'm saying because I know you'll think emotionally. I want to speak your language, the dialect that you understand. Rather than being an English person going to Mexico and thinking that they'll speak English, I want to go to Mexico and speak their language to them. I'm not saying that you don't think logically, therefore you're stupid. I'm not one of those types of men who will say, you're stupid. That's not me. Emotions are logical. They are. A lot of men will hear that and think that that's complete blasphemy to logic, but it isn't. Emotion follows logic. Emotions are logical. You may not understand why they're happening. That doesn't mean they're not logical. That means you have an incapability to understand the logic behind it. So let me try and explain this in a way that understands. Personally, if I put myself in the shoes of being a woman, I would hear the message that liberals speak saying that men are voting against their right to choose. They want you to not vote. They want you to be in the kitchen, slave away, be that for the man. The conservative man doesn't think about you. They think about them, themselves, and nobody else. They don't care about your feelings. Now, maybe I put a bit of gravitas in there, like I kind of just went on a little bit of an ad-lib. But if I was in the position of a woman and I was hearing that the media speaking about what men are thinking, no, Kitty, do not rub up against the tripod, please. I know you did this last time. Please don't. Okay, thank you. Hi. Where was I? I can understand how that kind of language, saying that men are voting against your rights, and I'm going to do this thing that Math pointed out with bird hands, because it's emotional language. Bird hands is emotional language. You may not understand what I mean by that, but I'm speaking wisdom. Bird hands is emotional language. It's just in a physical nature. I can understand being a lady and listening to liberal verbiage speaking about how men voted against our right to choose. I can understand that. But if we combine the emotional side of things, the emotional argument with logic, if we combine them, I'm not going to separate them because that is how you end up with the divide that we have in this current world. That is how you end up with divide and conquer, is you divide the logic and emotion. You have to put them together and use them as one unit. That is how you bring people together, is you bring these two things together. if you take the argument of choice and you take it down to the bottom depths of what they are saying, typically, I'll say I'm just speaking in generalities here. Typically, the speech of right to choose is in connection to abortion. Obviously, that word will have to be censored, but that's typically where that verbiage is directed at. You took away my choice in my future. You want me to have to be burdened with consequence. It is emotional warfare that women deal with from the liberals by them saying they took away your choice to unburden yourself from problems. Because if you look at it from the perspective of a baby costs money, time, attention, rather than the logical fact that that baby is 50% of you. You look at only those three things, and then you hear a man say you shouldn't get rid of those things that will be a burden on you. I can understand how the language of they want to take away your choice would be mentally fracturing. Because on one end, it was a man who helped create that burden, but now men are saying, I can't have the choice to not have that burden. But if we take the argument of choice to the logical conclusion, rather than looking on the outset, the emotional part of it, of seeing the burden, just the burden, but we combine that with the logic of the emotional argument, it's not that men are trying to stop you from being trying to stop you from unburdening yourself from circumstances like having a child. I think the more apt way to put it is that child is not a burden, but that child is 50% of you. You will see liberals say that men are taking away the rights of women to choose to have an you-know-what. But the way I, as a man who sees it, it is not that liberals are advocating for you to choose to put yourself first. They're advocating for you to put half of yourself to death. They're not advocating for you to live a prosperous life. They're advocating for you to keep 50% of yourself. That is what that child is 50% of yourself. Half of you. Your whole being, your personality, your physical traits. 50% of you. They want you to keep that. I am using emotional language here. Yes, because I want to speak to women on this situation that seems to be a great divide among men and women. Give me a second, I have to open up a door for a cat. Ugh, where was I? Yes. I am using emotional language here to describe the logic, rather than speaking of the logic of how of saying that the left is evil for what they are wanting. I'll speak to the emotional logic of yourself. If you are a woman listening to this, which I hope you are, because I want this video to be reached to women. Because the problem, and the divide is not only just from the left. I want to make that very clear. The divide is not only from the left. It is... Why am I going to the right with the left? Why did I do that? That is stupid. The divide is not only from the left, but it is all... I was thinking smart. I'm coping. I was thinking from your position, this is the left and this is the right. I'm coping with my stupidity. Anywho, the problem is not only from the left, but there's also from the right. Men speak logically. And a grand portion of the problem is that they do that and forget about the emotions. That is typically how men work. That is how we work throughout life. You hear the whole entire thing of men don't talk about their feelings, which I am an advocate for. I will say, there's a lot of men saying men should be more emotional, and I'm here to say they shouldn't. Is that toxic? Maybe. But the reason is because that is what men are wired to do. That is why when you see men be emotional, there is a grand chance of bad things happening. I could point to many things, but that would make this video too controversial. Anywho, men speak logically, and they forget about the emotions. Say, for example, you're a woman who sees the divide that is happening, that the left is advocating for you to keep 50% of yourself, but then you go to the right and you see a lot of the argumentation of men saying, or leaning into, or looking towards to saying that women are stupid. Now, I will, there's many examples I could give, but a lot of the men who are watching this would say something to the fact of, how, I'll use an example here. Popular example, whatever podcast. If you've watched it, you will know that the general feeling is women are bimbos and the men are smart. Now, maybe I'm wrong. That's just how I see it, though. And there's been many people who have gone on the show who have pointed out that the show leans towards misandry. Misandry? That is the right word. Misogyny. Oh my gosh. Misogyny. You'll see many, there have been many people, women and men who have seen the show and notice how it leans towards misogyny. Men who do not like women. But the argument that men will come up with, logically, I will say that, logically, is that when you look into the comment section of their video, the top 10 posts are from men who are not misogynists, but the reason why they're top posts is because many people have liked those posts. Many people have liked those posts. But the problem is when you go beneath those top 10, you'll find a lot more men who have not that many likes, but they are speaking their mind and saying things akin to women are stupid. Now, you can say, but many people don't agree with those people, and I would concur. That is logical. But think of it from the woman perspective, the emotional perspective, and realize that, sure, the top 10 posts are really liked, and they're not misogynist. But when you scroll past them, and you find comment after comment after comment after comment that aren't exactly maybe saying that women are stupid, but they're definitely leaning towards that, but they're not liked, but a lot of people are saying it. They may not be liked, many people may not agree with them, but there's not many people who go into the comment section of that person and disagree with them. There's not many people who are going to speak out about them that are on the male side because it makes them look bad. It does. And logically speaking, they're the minority. Most men do not think like those people. But if you're a woman and you're going after comment and after comment after comment and seeing stuff like that, it's not just that the top 10 most people agree because they send likes, but it's that the latter half has a lot of people who are misogynist, but that most men don't talk about. They obviously don't like it, but I can't tell you if they dislike it. Maybe they do. Maybe there's a lot of men who dislike those posts, and I would concur with that. But you can't see the dislikes because YouTube got rid of those. And you see those types of comments because assholes are gonna do what they do best, which is be themselves. And they're gonna say what they think, which is them being an asshole. And without taking into perspective other people and their own experiences and how they think differently from him. You'll also see a lot of this whole entire women hate from like X and all of that. So as a woman, you look to the left and you see a side that says men are taking away your choice to choose to 50% of yourself, a child that you helped create. Now maybe you didn't help create. That's very distressing, but it's still 50% of yourself that you are going to a doctor to. But then you look to the other side and you see all this whole entire women are stupid argument. So on one end you have people who are advocating for you, and the other end you see nothing but women are stupid. The reason why they go this way is because they see advocation on this side. It's evil advocation, but advocation over evil with no advocation whatsoever. I am upset for women in this current political landscape because you have men who are unwilling to bridge the gap, and you have the other side advocating for them to kill themselves 50%. That's horrific. I couldn't imagine putting myself in that shoes. I couldn't. Simply put, I couldn't. Now maybe I'm speaking out of turn and being a man, thinking like a man, and going about this, and women are not going to see this and understand. I hope that's not true. I hope what I've said makes sense here. Possibly. It just upsets me how you could be someone like... It upsets me when I put myself in being in the shoes of someone who is emotional about their being and how they look at everything. They're emotional. They see the emotional language of how the right hates them, and they look to the right and they're proven right. But on the flip side, the side that advocates and says that the right hates them says the exact same thing, but just with more flowery language. Hey, we're giving you the right to choose to 50% of you. I'm happy that I'm a man. I'm happy that I'm more capable of thinking logically than I am necessarily emotionally. But I think a really great problem in today's world is we don't have either side coming together, and the right would do vastly better if we took even a modicum of a second to put ourselves in the perspective of a woman and what they are feeling about what we're saying. It's grandiose to say we don't want you to kill your child, but it's even better to be on their level and say, the other side wants you to kill 50% of yourself. They don't want you to live. They want you to vote for them to have you end part of yourself. That's evil. If the right was capable of taking a second, which once again, the right is vastly men, which men vastly speak logic. If men were able to take a second and to bridge the gap of logic and understand that emotions are logical, and were to able to speak in that format, not only would a lot more women stop going so far to the left, but they would agree a lot more, because it not only is it logical, which once again, it is emotions first, logical second. Not only is it emotionally sound, but it's also logically sound. A large problem of today's political landscape is that it is all about divide and conquer. They divide the men, but conquer the women. You've got, it takes for a society, man, I'm having such a lisp. For a society to work, it takes two to tango. Two to tango is a logical side and an emotional side. You can't have something tango with just two of the same thing, or else that's not a tango. That's just, I could speak of this in a concept form, but that would be speaking to men, and this is more speaking to women. So I'm not going to go in that direction, but it takes two to tango. It takes two to tango to make a child. It takes two to tango for the society to come together and to function. Currently in this political landscape, we have one side that doesn't speak to women, and the other side that speaks to women but advocates them to 50% of themselves. I feel upset for women in the outset of this whole entire thing. I'm upset for them. This sucks. This whole entire situation just sucks. It completely and utterly sucks. The left has completely dominated the field of being emotional with their language, which is why women move towards them. I don't know if glean is the right word. I keep on saying it, but I think it's the wrong word. But keep on moving towards their direction, and men, while we don't think we're splitting off that far because logic doesn't change, to the woman who is listening to the emotion of them saying that men want to take away your choice to have or a choice to vote, they're hearing that and they're moving towards them because that is emotionally waning on their heart. Whereas the men, we don't think we're moving, but to the women, we are moving. It looks like we're moving because the other side is tearing them in half. I'm upset about the situation. That's, I think, that's really all I had to say in this video. I think something I'm going to take my own time to do is learn to be more emotional with my arguments, but also stay in line with logic, but combine the two. Rather than just speaking logically, I want to combine the two. I don't know how I'd implement it. to be straightforward. I don't know how I'd implement it, but that is something that the conservative side of things is completely and utterly missing for a large part. I think to a degree we have it, but we need to learn to speak more kind, more charitable in how people speak and how they look at things. There's more ways I could go down this rabbit hole, but I think the video would get too long at that rate. Anywho, I have a video that I'm currently working on. I'll get back to it, but it's gonna take a long time. It's just gonna be more shorts that'll be gonna be posted. This one I'm not gonna short. I'm just gonna post this as is. I think, maybe, possibly, potentially. Anywho, that's all I had to say.